It's great. It's great to know that yeah, you're the youngest. Your name is gonna be in the book records.
Alex Eala, yeah, that's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some players coming from respective countries like
the unified front. Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz officially boycott ABC as the tennis world stands behind Alex Eala. Respect our athletes, or lose us forever. The media landscape just experienced an earthquake of absolutely epic proportions, and the tremors are being felt all the way from the sun-baked courts of the ATP Tour right into the very boardrooms of mainstream television. What started as a leaked script has exploded into an absolute inferno that now threatens to burn down one of daytime television's longest-running and most powerful franchises. If you thought you had seen athlete pushback before, if you thought you had witnessed stars clapping back at the media machine, then buckle up tight, because the rules of the entire game have officially been rewritten. The hunters have just become the hunted, and the tennis elite are not taking any prisoners. Not today, not ever again. Welcome back to Champions Tennisistics, your ultimate home for the hardest-hitting, baseline-smashing, no-holds-barred tennis news on the entire planet. Grab your popcorn, settle into your seat, and get ready, folks, because today we are breaking down a historic, unprecedented, earth-shattering move that has sent absolute shockwaves crashing through both the sports and entertainment industries simultaneously. We are talking about a total, uncompromising, network-wide boycott of ABC and The View, spearheaded by none other than the 24-time Grand Slam champion, the Serbian war machine himself, Novak Djokovic, and the reigning king of clay, the golden boy of modern tennis, Carlos Alcaraz.
Llego a casa soy el Carlos de siempre, no el tenista.
And the reason for this nuclear response? The blatant, calculated, utterly shameless disrespect of 20-year-old rising superstar Alex Eala. Make absolutely no mistake about what this is. This isn't just a slap on the wrist. This is not a passive-aggressive tweet or a politely worded statement from a publicist. This is a systematic, full-scale shutdown of access. And the message being sent to every television executive in America is chillingly, unmistakably clear. Respect our athletes, or lose us forever.
And love tennis and appreciate the players and the effort that the players put in here. I played in much more hostile environment, trust me. You guys can't touch me.
To fully grasp the sheer magnitude of this nuclear fallout, to truly understand why the most powerful players on the ATP and WTA tours are collectively drawing a line in the sand that nobody dares cross, we have to go all the way back to the spark that ignited this raging flame. We need to examine the infamous ambush script leak, the moment that changed everything. For those who might have missed the initial rumblings and the early whispers traveling through the corridors of sports media, let us lay it all out for you right now. Insider leaks and rumor mills recently exposed a deeply unsettling, morally bankrupt narrative that was allegedly being engineered entirely behind the scenes at The View. Word got out through multiple credible channels that producers were allegedly prepping a segment deliberately and specifically designed to completely blindside and belittle Alex Eala, framing what was intended to be a targeted, coordinated personal attack as nothing more than a routine daytime television interview. Think about that for a moment. A network, with all of its resources, its writers, its producers, and its platform, allegedly sat around a table and decided that their best play was to bring a young, hardworking, humble, 20-year-old Filipina athlete onto their turf and use her as a disposable pawn for cheap ratings and manufactured viral drama. They looked at one of tennis's brightest emerging stars and saw not an athlete worthy of respect, but a prop for content. They severely, catastrophically underestimated who they were dealing with and what kind of response that disrespect would trigger. As one veteran sports analyst put it with devastating precision the moment the news broke across social media, they forgot she has an army of kings standing right behind her. The arrogance of the network executives blinded them entirely to one crucial, undeniable, inescapable fact about the modern professional tennis world. The locker room is tighter than it has ever been in the history of the sport. These athletes have trained together, traveled together, competed against each other in the most grueling conditions imaginable, and built genuine bonds that transcend competition. When you come for one of their own, especially when you target a bright, young, burgeoning talent who has done nothing but grind with everything she has to make her country proud on the world stage. You are not just coming for one person. You are declaring war on the entire sport. And the sport, as it turns out, is very well armed. Enter Novak Djokovic. If there is one singular thing the Serbian legend is universally known for outside of his superhuman flexibility, his ironclad mental fortress, and his record-shattering trophy cabinet, it is his fierce, unapologetic, relentless defense of his fellow players. This is not a new character trait manufactured for public relations purposes. This is the core of who Novak Djokovic is as a human being. As the founder of the Professional Tennis Players Association, Djokovic has spent years going to absolute war with the establishment, facing enormous personal and professional risk to ensure that athletes at every level of the game get the respect, the compensation, and the protection they rightfully deserve. He has gone up against governing bodies, tournament directors, and now, in the most dramatic fashion imaginable, a major American television network. When the news of the alleged ambush script first reached his camp, the reaction was reportedly swift, ruthless, calculated, and absolute. Djokovic, never one to shy away from direct confrontation when player rights and dignity are on the line, laid down the law to his close associates and management team in terms that left zero room for interpretation. He made it crystal clear to everyone within earshot that the tennis community has watched for too long as certain networks try to twist narratives, manufacture controversy, and exploit athletes for ratings without a single shred of accountability. He declared with the full weight of his authority that if a network does not respect Eala, it does not respect the sport of tennis.
Eala, that's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines.
And if it does not respect the sport of tennis, it does not deserve one single second of access to its greatest practitioners. Just like that, the greatest player of all time slammed the door shut on one of the most powerful television networks in America. No exclusive interviews. No morning show appearances following a US Open victory. No behind-the-scenes access to training sessions or press conferences. No casual sit-downs. No nothing. A complete and total, unconditional blackout. But the nightmare for ABC was only just beginning its descent into absolute chaos, because standing right behind the greatest of all time was the undisputed face of tennis's glittering future. Carlos Alcaraz, the smiling assassin, the generational talent whose effortless brilliance and infectious personality have captured the hearts of tens of millions of fans across every corner of the globe, immediately and decisively followed suit. Alcaraz is not just a tennis player. He is a cultural phenomenon. He is the reason young kids across Europe, Latin America, Asia, and beyond are picking up rackets and falling in love with the sport. He represents the new era, the youth movement of tennis, and perhaps more than almost anyone else currently active on tour, he knows exactly and intimately what it feels like to carry the crushing weight of immense expectations at a very young age. He began competing under an international spotlight as a teenager, navigating the pressures of becoming a global sports star while simultaneously trying to grow and mature as a human being. Seeing a peer, a fellow young athlete like Eala, being allegedly targeted by corporate media sharks who view her as nothing more than a ratings opportunity struck a deeply, viscerally personal chord. Alcaraz went to social media with the kind of clarity and conviction that you simply cannot fake and cannot manufacture. He posted a powerful, evocative image of an empty tennis court bathed in the cool blue shadows of twilight, accompanied by a caption that functioned as the kill shot heard around the sporting world. Integrity isn't for sale. We stand with Alex. And then the hashtag that has since become the rallying cry of a generation of sports fans, Stand with Eala. That single post functioned as a detonation device. The response from fans, fellow athletes, journalists, and commentators was instantaneous and overwhelming. The reason the combination of Djokovic and Alcaraz represents such a catastrophic loss for any network becomes clear when you understand what each player brings to the table individually. When you lose Novak Djokovic, you lose the historical gravitas, the prestige, the legitimacy, and the decades of storytelling that come with covering the greatest tennis player who has ever lived. But when you lose Carlos Alcaraz, you lose something arguably even more commercially precious to a network desperately chasing younger demographics. You lose the viral clips, the spontaneous moments, the social media fuel, and the future of sports entertainment. Losing one of them would be bad. Losing both of them simultaneously, with both explicitly citing the same cause and the same target of their collective solidarity, is the kind of PR disaster that gets entire leadership teams fired. The 1-2 punch of Djokovic and Alcaraz presenting a unified, non-negotiable front has completely paralyzed the network's crisis communications department, and every hour that passes without a meaningful response only deepens the wound. Now let us talk about why Alex Eala specifically is inspiring this ferocious, unprecedented level of protection from the absolute biggest names in global professional tennis. Because you have to understand, this is not sympathy. This is not charity. This is not a group of famous men choosing to ride to the rescue of someone they perceive as vulnerable. This is respect. Deep, earned, genuine respect for an athlete who has worked herself to the bone to become one of the most exciting and inspiring figures in the sport. Alex Eala is not just another player on the tour. She is a trailblazer carrying the weight and the dreams of an entire nation of over 100 million people on her 20-year-old shoulders, and she does it with a grace and a composure that makes veterans twice her age take notice. Over the course of the last year alone, Eala has been on an absolute, relentless tear, cementing her status as a genuine global phenomenon with a highlight reel that would make most seasoned professionals envious. She captured her first WTA trophy in Guadalajara, a moment that sent the Philippines into collective euphoria and confirmed what scouts and coaches had been whispering for years. She secured gold medals at the SEA Games, representing her country with the kind of pride and intensity that transcends sport entirely. She has executed epic comeback victories in Abu Dhabi that had audiences gasping. She has inked massive global ambassador deals with Nike, placing her in the same commercial stratosphere as the sport's most marketable stars. She has done all of this while remaining, by every account from everyone who interacts with her professionally and personally, humble, gracious, hardworking, and genuinely kind. For a panel of daytime talk show hosts to allegedly scheme and script a segment specifically designed to tear down a young woman who represents so much positivity, so much progress, so much national pride, and so much genuine athletic achievement was not just poor judgment. It was a moral failure of the highest order. The tennis elite recognized it for exactly what it was immediately, and they recognized something else too. Something far more consequential. They understood that if a major network could allegedly sit down and casually plan a coordinated hit job on someone as universally loved, as demonstrably respectful, and as authentically inspiring as Alex Eala, then the predatory calculation being made in those production meetings was that no athlete was truly safe. If they would go after her, they would go after anyone. The boycott, therefore, is not simply or solely about defending Alex Eala, as noble a cause as that alone would be. It is about setting a permanent, undeniable, legally documented precedent. It is about drawing a boundary around the entire profession of professional tennis and saying, clearly and without compromise, that athletes are not content, they are not props, and they are not expendable. Inside sources with direct access to the management teams of both Djokovic and Alcaraz have confirmed to multiple sports media outlets that a formal, jointly authored notice has been drafted and delivered directly to the top brass at ABC. The terms laid out in that notice are breathtakingly non-negotiable and brutally, refreshingly straightforward. Until Alex Eala receives a full, public, on-air apology delivered with the same platform and the same prominence that was allegedly going to be used to ambush her, and until the executives and producers specifically responsible for drafting and approving the ambush script are identified, held publicly accountable, and face appropriate professional consequences, the boycott remains in absolute, unwavering full effect. There are no side negotiations. There are no back-channel conversations being entertained. There is no softening of the position based on corporate pressure or advertiser anxiety. The position is binary: do the right thing or remain frozen out entirely. Consider what this means practically as we approach the North American hardcourt swing, that crucial stretch of the tennis calendar that builds inexorably toward the US Open in New York City. one of the four most important and most watched sporting events in the entire world, an event that American networks spend fortunes to cover and that millions of fans tune in to watch around the globe. ABC and its affiliates and partners will find themselves completely and humiliatingly frozen out of the access game. Picture the morning shows in their gleaming studios, desperate for the traditional post-match champion interviews that have been a staple of their sports coverage programming. Picture the producers reaching for their phones, placing calls, sending emails, and being met with one consistent, unwavering response from publicists explicitly citing the Stand with Eala boycott as the reason their client will not be appearing. Imagine the broadcast logistics nightmare rippling through their scheduling departments. The network thought they were buying temporary ratings buzz and a cheap viral moment with a scripted attack on a 20-year-old athlete. What they actually bought was a permanent, catastrophic bankruptcy of their reputation and credibility among the most influential athletes on the planet. They gambled their entire credibility for a cheap headline and managed to lose the entire casino in a single roll. The ripple effect spreading outward from this unified front is already staggering in its scope and is growing more significant by the day. Reports are now emerging from multiple credible sources embedded in the professional tennis world that additional top 10 players from both the ATP and WTA tours are quietly, but definitively joining the ranks of those who have instructed their agents and management teams to categorically decline any and all requests originating from the network. There is a profound sense of locker room solidarity operating here that transcends rankings, transcends rivalries, transcends nationalities, and even transcends the traditional competitive divide between the men's and women's tours. Women's tour champions, athletes who are all too achingly familiar with the particular brand of unfair scrutiny, manufactured drama, and reductive narratives that certain media outlets have historically pushed onto female athletes, are standing shoulder to shoulder with their male counterparts in a display of cross-gender athletic solidarity that is genuinely historic. The message is resonating far beyond the boundaries of the tennis world, catching the serious attention of active athletes in basketball, golf, football, and soccer, who are watching closely and carefully to see how this fundamental power dynamic between athletes and media networks ultimately shifts and resolves itself. What makes the Djokovic and Alcaraz alliance particularly devastating for the network, beyond the pure commercial and access implications, is the moral clarity it projects. This is not a complicated story. There is no both sidesing it in a way that feels credible or satisfying. On one side, you have a young, accomplished, universally respected athlete who has done nothing except work hard, compete with integrity, and make her nation proud. On the other side, you have a network that allegedly sat down and planned a scripted attack on that young woman for the express purpose of generating controversy and ratings. And in between, you have two of the most accomplished, most watched, most beloved figures in global sports saying publicly and loudly that they choose her. Not the platform, not the exposure, not the interviews. Her. The narrative writes itself, and it writes itself in a way that leaves the network with nowhere comfortable to stand. Every day they fail to respond meaningfully is another day the story compounds against them. Another day the boycott strengthens, and another day more athletes quietly add their names to the list of those who will not be making appearances on their airwaves. This saga is already being discussed in sports media circles as a genuine turning point, a watershed moment in the history of the relationship between professional athletes and the broadcast media that covers them. And it is equally a powerful testament to the character and the priorities of the men at the center of it. Novak Djokovic has won every trophy the sport of tennis has to offer, conquered every court on every continent, and broken virtually every record worth breaking. He could, at this stage of his legendary career, simply focus on his legacy, collect his appearance fees, do the safe interviews, and leave the complicated battles to someone else. Instead, he is here, using every ounce of his immense influence to shield a 20-year-old athlete from a network that allegedly saw her as a target. Carlos Alcaraz, with the entire world celebrating his talent and his marketability, with endorsement offers and media requests flooding his management team from every direction, chose to post that image, write that caption, and align himself publicly and unambiguously with integrity over access. Both of these men, in this moment, are demonstrating that true greatness extends considerably beyond what happens between the lines on a tennis court. As for Eala herself, what a statement her story is making right now, entirely independently of anything she has said publicly about this situation. She has not had to fight this battle herself. She has not had to issue statements or organize pressure campaigns or navigate the treacherous political landscape of sports media. Her character, her work ethic, her genuine relationships within the tennis community, and the quality of the human being she has shown herself to be through years of professional competition spoke so loudly on her behalf that the legends of the game went to war for her without being asked. That is not something you can manufacture. That is not something you can buy with endorsement deals or clever marketing. That is the organic, genuine fruit of being an authentically good person in a profession where authenticity is rarer than Grand Slam trophies. Eala emerges from this controversy, despite being the intended target of it, stronger, more beloved, more visible, and more supported than she has ever been at any point in her career. The network wanted to diminish her, and instead they inadvertently handed her the most powerful endorsement any young athlete could ever receive. The ball is now sitting squarely, unmistakably, and very uncomfortably in ABC's court. The clock above that court is not pausing. It is counting down with every passing hour toward a deadline that has no specific date, but that every sports fan, every tennis follower, every Filipino supporter, and every person who believes that athletes deserve basic dignity is tracking closely. The demands are clear. The united front is solid. The support from the global sports community is growing, not shrinking. The question is not whether the network understands the gravity of the situation at this point, because they absolutely must. The question is whether the institutional pride and the corporate culture that allegedly led to this disaster in the first place will allow the human beings running that organization to do the simple, necessary, overdue right thing. Until they do, the blackout continues. Until they do, the message from champions tennisitics and from tennis fans around the world remains exactly what it has been from the first moment this story broke. We stand with Eala, and we will not be moving. What an absolutely seismic, unprecedented, historic display of athletic loyalty, moral clarity, and collective power we are witnessing unfold in real time. The tennis world has never seen anything quite like this unified front, and the ripples from it are going to reshape the relationship between sports and media for years to come. Now we need to hear from you, because your voice matters enormously in this conversation. Do you think ABC is going to do the right thing and issue the full public apology that Eala deserves? Or are they going to try to quietly ride this out and hope the story fades? Is this boycott going to inspire athletes in other sports to start drawing the same kinds of firm boundaries with networks that have historically taken their access for granted? And most importantly, are you riding with Eala through all of this? Drop every single thought, prediction, reaction, and declaration of support you have down in the comments section right now. We genuinely read every single comment you leave, and they fuel everything we do here. If this video gave you the information, the energy, and the fire you were looking for, please smash that like button hard. It makes an enormous difference in getting this content to more tennis fans who need to hear this story.
I saw the other day with Eala, that's been a talk, and which is understandable. There's some players